It is Saturday, October 19th, 2024, and this is Political Dharma with Alan Zundell. Over the course of this presidential election campaign season, that is the whole last year, I've been talking periodically about the possibility that there could be a major party realignment coming out of this year. I think that is becoming apparent. Not only are the configurations of the coalitions backing each major party shifting in the course of this election campaign season, but the two leading minor parties seem to be undergoing some changes as well. That is the Libertarian Party and the Green Party, especially the Libertarian Party, which seems like it's breaking up and going to come out of this election with a vastly reconfigured formation. The Green Party has some big choices ahead of it as well, depending on how the election turns out. So I'm going to be covering the stories of the last couple of weeks that affect the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, and how all this party ecosystem seems to be evolving and changing before our eyes. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to have a couple of reminders of events coming up in this next week that you can participate in online, as well as a good website to go to look for who is going to be on your ballot in your state, if you don't already know that. I'm speaking about all the independent and minor party candidates because you already know the two major party candidates are always going to appear on the ballot, even though there's been attempts to prevent Trump from getting on the ballot. So let's start off with a story having to do with the Green Party. This last week, the American Arab and Muslim Political Action Committee endorsed Green Party nominee Dr. Jill Stein. This is, of course, in response to the Harris candidacy, the Harris campaign, still reiterating the support for Israel's policies in the Middle East and the bombardment of Gaza, as well as their incursions into Lebanon now and their confrontations with Iran. So there's been very little daylight, if any, between the Harris campaign and the Biden campaign, and a lot of Muslim Americans are starting, or have been through the last year, splitting off from the Democrats and questioning their support for Democrats. So this is just the latest in a series of prominent Arab American or Muslim American groups turning against Harris. Stein was previously endorsed back in September by the Muslim American Public Affairs Council, and by the even larger group Abandon Harris endorsed Stein on October 7th. Abandon Harris was previously called the Abandon Biden campaign, and it formed last December by a lot of Muslim American leaders and community leaders. And there's other groups of Muslims who are also, I should mention, either neutral, such as the uncommitted group that tried to get delegates to the Democratic National Convention to be uncommitted to Biden, or some of the groups still support Harris. So here we have a headline from a Texas newspaper, Texas Standard, which is the article that they're publishing here is from Houston Public Media, and I thought the headline was particularly telling. Muslim voters are split between Harris and Green Party nominee Stein as war in Gaza influences their decision. They published a poll taken by the Council of American Islamic Relations back in August, and here it shows graphically how the Muslim American community is becoming split. You see that part in green down at the bottom is the part of the community that is backing, or back then, at least a couple of months ago, was backing Jill Stein. That's 29.1%, whereas the part of the community backing Kamala Harris in blue is 29.4%. They're virtually tied with each other then. I'm not sure how it's changed since then, but I don't think it's been very significantly changed. There's going to be a big part of the Muslim American community that does not get behind their Democratic, not their, but the Democratic nominee. And you also had back in August in purple there, 16.5% of that community undecided not knowing which way they're going. Some of them actually have moved towards Trump as it becomes clear that it's going to be one or the other, and they're doing that just because they want to punish Harris for her unwavering support of Israel, no matter what Israel happens to be doing. So what does that bode for the Green Party, and what does that bode for the Democratic Party? Well, for the Green Party, here they have an opportunity to be at the forefront of a major issue in American politics and build their base, not only among Muslim Americans, who are, of course, a minority in the United States, but among progressives who would typically fall into the Democratic camp in the progressive wing of it, but may, if they see that this issue is, if Kamala Harris continues to take a hard line of support towards Israel, and the Green Party is the most prominent and vocal opponent of the Israeli backing policy, you may see a migration of progressives towards the Green Party, not only in this election and going forward. So it all depends on the outcome of the election, of course, how viable each seems to be. If the Green Party is able to build on its previous support, and Jill Stein has been the presidential candidate who got the highest number of votes as a candidate of the Green Party since Ralph Nader, if they can build on their 1 or so percent of the vote that they've gotten recently and get somewhere up in the realm of 2, 3, 4%, which would be pretty high, they could show that they could be a significant factor in future elections and a wedge against the Democrats if they continue to ignore their progressive part of their coalition. So how progressives are going to go in the Democratic Party and how the Green Party is going to go really depends on the outcome. Of course, you wouldn't expect the Democratic Party to show much interest in backing away from the Israeli policy just to please progressives, and in fact how they are handling the Green Party challenge here is that they are attacking them with a campaign ad, which is, I don't know if it's completely unprecedented, but it is unusual for the Democratic National Committee to be launching ads not against their Republican opponent, but against Green Party candidate Jill Stein. Let's take a look at the ad that they released last week. And this article that you're seeing on the screen is from the Independent Political Report. It says, Democratic National Committee launches attack ads against Green Party nominee Jill Stein in key swing states. This is from October 14th, just a few days ago. And here, let's listen to that ad.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Jill Stein, I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
So a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Donald Trump, according to the Democratic National Committee, rather than trying to win back Muslim American voters by tempering their support for Israel in some way. They are doubling down on the strategy of trying to demonize anyone that doesn't follow their line completely. So they're demonizing Jill Stein. The few percentage points that she gets in swing states could make a big difference, but they could win those few percentage back by just tempering their policies somewhat. Instead, they go out and attack, which is not going to go over well among the progressive community in general. I think there'll be a lot of them that want to attack Stein as well. If they lose the election, they'll blame the Green Party. And if the Green Party does real well, they might attract some more people. But if they don't do very well and the election seems to depend on a few percent of the vote in the swing states that could have gone to Harris in the Democrats' mind, but instead went to Stein, there's going to be a lot of antagonism towards the Green Party, and they'll be even more harassed going into the future. So how this is going to affect the coalition of the Democratic Party and how it's going to affect the Green Party is one of the things I'm going to watch for as the outcome of the election. Of course, even if the Democrats win by a percentage point or even one vote across the country, they're going to see that as a vindication of all their policies and a reason to continue to ignore progressives as any big factor in their coalition. So what else? Here's the interesting thing about that. One of the interesting things is part of the Democratic strategy seems to be embracing any Republican that comes along that wants to cast a vote against Donald Trump. So the most notorious here would be Dick Cheney. Let's listen to what Kamala Harris had to say in a campaign event with Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney, who was formerly a member of the House of Representatives but lost her primary to a more Trumpian candidate.
Liz Cheney really is a leader who puts country above party and above self, a true patriot, and it is my profound honor to have your support. And I also want to thank your father, Vice President Dick Cheney, for his support and what he has done to serve our country.
So that's presidential candidate Kamala Harris at a campaign event with Republican Liz Cheney, formerly of the House of Representatives. And in that, Kamala Harris at the end, you heard her, said she was honored to have the endorsement of Dick Cheney, the former vice president under the administration of George W. Bush, who previously had been the principal bogeyman of the Democratic Party. They accused Dick Cheney, I think pretty rightfully, of being a war criminal and leading the United States into a war against Iraq, an invasion of a country that was really no threat to the United States and had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks of 9/11 back, at the beginning of this millennium, and was also someone who put a lot of neoconservatives into office who continually promoted military aggressiveness by the United States that got us into some of these wars, such as the war in Ukraine. She was thanking him for his public service. Now, that's a big change. So you have all these Republicans now endorsing Kamala Harris. Is that going to change the coalition of the Democrats? If they're abandoning their progressive wing and just ignoring them, are they now moving even more to the right to draw these people into their coalition? There was an interesting article in the Washington Post by a Republican, Jennifer Rubin. I forget what her credentials are, but she's somebody that writes a lot from the GOP standpoint, I think. And here she has an opinion piece in the Washington Post, what Liz Cheney and other honorable Republicans should do next. And she is part of the anti-Trump Republican coalition, or in some cases, formerly Republican politicians. And she lays out three possibilities for these anti-Trump Republicans in the near future, depending on how the election turns out. Of course, what she says is she wants to, as they all do, defeat Donald Trump so that maybe they can reconfigure the Republican Party, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the MAGA movement is going to continue to have an influence whether Trump wins or loses. She lays out three possibilities for these anti-Trump Republicans. One of them would be to join the right wing of the Democratic Party, which I mentioned just a little bit ago. Another thing would be to form a third party, as something they regard as centrist, but really it would be Republicans, reinstitutionalization of the Republican Party, but on a much smaller scale. And she lays out there all the cons of that, how third parties don't get anywhere and really don't make much of a difference. And finally, a fusion party, such as the Conservative Party in New York or the Working Families Party, which is present in a couple of states. Each of those that give their ballot line over. They have a different coalition behind them, people who are not quite happy with the major party, but would vote for them if they were the best candidate. So the Fusion Party gives its ballot line over by nominating one of the nominees of one of the major parties. So she sees this as an opportunity to form a different party that then can support either conservative Democrats or anti-Trump Republicans, depending on the race, not just in presidential, but in congressional races and other races. So she sees that as three possibilities, none of them that bode very promising that are very promising for these anti-Trump Republicans. So where are they going to go? I think the most likely thing for them to do is to end up in the Democratic Party, and that the Republican Party is going to be, and is now, an entirely different beast than the Republican Party they joined many years ago. So that seems to be most likely, that the Democratic Party is going to be changing because it's going to be even more welcoming to these neoconservatives and former Republicans, and it's going to start ignoring its progressive wing. If they win, that's certainly the tack they'll take. If they lose, if the Democrats lose, they'll all have to do a major rethinking, but they're not gonna change anything dramatically. They're still dependent on their donors, and that's who they're going to try to please. They'll just change their messaging. I wish there would be a shakeup. I wish the progressive wing of the party would, reinforce their efforts to try to get a different presidential candidate 4 years from now. But who knows? The Democratic Party looks like it's got to change one way or the other, and maybe moving just in a direction they've been going in for many years now. So not a huge change, but not a welcome change in my mind either. So what's next here? Libertarian Party. What's going on in the Libertarian Party? Well, as I've been reporting in the past, they are engaged in huge internal fighting. And this even reached Reason Magazine, which is a libertarian publication. It has a headline here from earlier this week. Let's see, 10/10, that's about a week ago, a little over a week ago. Libertarian Party Secretary files lawsuit to remove party chair Angela McArdle. Now, this is a fight that's been going on for a little while between factions within the party, and it's come out, it's resulted now in the former secretary of the Libertarian National Committee suing to remove Angela McArdle, the chair of the party, from her office on several grounds, mostly having to do with her being disloyal to the party and being a support for MAGA Republicans, that she's conspired to support Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as opposed to a real libertarian, that she's mismanaged their finances, and that she had delayed this sending out certificates of certification for their nominee, Chase Oliver, to the various secretaries of states around the country. So in different ways, she's accusing her of sabotaging the party from within. We do see that there's reasons for a lot of libertarians to be unhappy. In their most recent financial report that came out in August, here you can see an excerpt from that. Their sustaining members, which are members that continue to give month by month, year by year to the party, has shrunken vastly over the last 2 years, and even more so since the last presidential election. Down in August of 24, see, it's way down there on the right side, how the line has been trending downward in the chart, in the graph that they put into their report. And the graph underneath that shows their revenue over the last 20 years was fairly good, and then growing in 2016, 2020, and the last couple of presidential elections was particularly high. But then since 2023, it shrunk quite a bit. So the party is losing out members, and it's losing out on its finances. Let's take a look at another an article. This is from the Third Party Watch, which is often covering events within the Libertarian Party, by George Phillies, or Feelies, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, from about 2 weeks ago. This is from October 4th. LNC, that is the Libertarian National Committee, financial position is interesting. By that he means not very good, in dire shape. So an excerpt from that down below the headline, if you can see the graphic that I put up. This is a report from Bill Redpath, their treasurer. If you remove the JFC or JFI, that is the Joint Fundraising Committee or the Joint Fundraising Agreement with Robert F. Kennedy, so if you could ignore the Libertarian Party's fundraising in combination with Robert Kennedy, cash from the August 31st balance sheet leaves $472,833 current assets, but then below that, The liabilities are $536,902, current liabilities, for a difference of $64,000, $64,069. That is a liability, not an asset. So they're in the hole if you don't consider the money that they're raising in combination with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. As we see in this article from the Independent Political Report of just a couple of days ago, the Kennedy Victory Fund filed its most recent financial figures for October. Not for October, but for last month. They had a report on Tuesday, and it says here they dispersed $2.5 million to the Libertarian National Committee, Team Kennedy, and state affiliates. So of the money being raised jointly by Libertarian Party and Kennedy, and also the American Independent Party in California, they're dispersing about $2.5 million, and $1.5 million of that went to the Libertarian National Committee. So that is what is keeping the party afloat right now. They're very dependent on this agreement with Kennedy to do joint fundraising, where the money is split between Team Kennedy and the Libertarian National Committee and several state affiliates of the Libertarian Party, as well as the American Independent Party in California. So the bulk of that is going to the Libertarian Party. Team Kennedy got about $271,000, closer to $272,000. Where that's going, I'm not sure. It's not going to support a Kennedy campaign because he suspended his campaign. It's either going to his MAHA movement, that is Make America Healthy Again, which he is in alignment with the Trump campaign and doing that, or it's going directly to the Trump campaign. I guess it's going to MAHA rather than Trump directly, but either way, it's going to support the Trump campaign. So the Libertarian Party is being funded by the same group that is actually supporting Donald Trump. This is one of the reasons they're having problems, is that there's a faction of the party called the Mises Caucus that has been more willing to engage with MAGA and Trump and Kennedy, and undercutting the actual nominee who wasn't one of the nominees that they wanted. What does the Libertarian Party National Committee chair have to say about all this infighting? Well, she had an interesting tweet that she put out on October 10th. As you can see on your screen, she is saying that the Libertarian Party has been the victim of COINTELPRO tactics for many years, if not decades. By that, she's referring to CIA's COINTEL project back in the 60s, 70s to infiltrate various groups and sabotage them and try to manipulate them in various ways. So she's accusing the CIA of having been infiltrating the Libertarian Party. The next paragraph there, she says, it's difficult to tell if the operatives, meaning mostly the secretary of the party, who they removed from office recently, are smearing and harassing us, are generally Fed compromised individuals, that is, they're on the payroll of some federal spy agencies, or they are the product of a late-stage operation, again, the federal government behind it, that was designed to draw in malcontents and mentally unstable types. I suspect it's a mixture of both. So the chair of the party is pushing back against accusations that she's been disloyal to the party and mismanaging it by saying that her critics are either CIA operatives or being manipulated by the CIA or some other federal intelligence agency in order to undercut the Libertarian Party. So she's accusing her critics of being on the government payroll. How are the discontented Libertarians reacting besides trying to fight to regain control of the party? Well, in this article from the Third Party Watch, again, George Feely's, it's an opinion by Schuyler Windham, who has been a active member of the party in Nebraska. And I've excerpted a couple of parts from her open letter in which she talks about why she is leaving the Libertarian Party. The paragraph that you see coming after the headline, and the headline is Opinion Moving Beyond the Sunk Cost Fallacy to New Political Home, by which she means just because she's devoted years of effort to building up the Libertarian Party, it doesn't necessarily make sense for her to keep trying to do that to justify the time and effort she spent. But you got to let go of that and move on if it's not going to be the most fruitful path for going forward. In that paragraph right under the headline, she says she speculates if Rechtenwald, that is the Mises Caucus preferred candidate for the presidential nominee, let me go back and quote because I stopped to identify Rechtenwald. So Michael Rechtenwald, was the preferred candidate of the Mises Caucus, the one that's affiliated with Angela McArdle, the chair of the party, and didn't win. He lost the nomination to Chase Oliver. So she says, I speculate if Rechtenwald had received the nomination, he would have dropped out to endorse Trump before the end of the summer, just as RFK ended up doing. Now that sounds like not only is she thinking that he was likely to do that for his own reasons, but that it may have been a plot to try to gain the nomination, the mega coalition, the Mises Caucus. Well, you may as well call them the mega coalition. I think some people have accused him of being that. But the Mises Caucus wanted to get him in and then get him out at the last minute in order to throw the Libertarian endorsement over to Trump. And also kind of hinting that maybe that was RFK's plan all along. Down at the bottom, his campaign would have concluded with an endorsement of Trump and with the intent to make the Libertarian Party look unprofessional and hateful. So she's looking at it, and this is from somebody who's been active in the party for many years. She's looking at the chair as and her coalition as trying to destroy the party, same as the national secretary. And then finally, another paragraph down below them, she says she's currently serving as the chair of the Nebraska Liberal Party. The Liberal Party is forming in a few states with different titles, and it is taking in disenchanted libertarians and forming new parties. And I welcome disenfranchised libertarians and classical liberals to Liberal Party USA. Take a look at their platform on liberalpartyusa.org, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to have an inaugural convention in December in Houston on December 6th through the 8th. So the liberal parties are being formed for libertarians who are leaving the party. So what's happened out of this election season is that the Libertarian Party is breaking apart, is very dependent for its fundraising on Kennedy, who is not going to continue fundraising, I don't think, after the election, or at least not participating in a fundraising agreement with the Libertarians. And a lot of Libertarian parties are leaving to create new parties. This means that as the largest minor party in the United States, I think it's going to lose that status to the Green Party because it's breaking apart, losing members. The process of trying to create new libertarian parties with different names is going to take a while, and this is not going to be a big challenge, and they'll be competing with the old Libertarian Party. So in this respect, the party ecosystem, the part of it occupied by the Libertarian Party, is breaking apart and is changing radically. So how this comes out, I don't know. Be watching the results of the election to see how well Chase Oliver does, who is the official nominee and someone who's not part of the Mises Caucus, but and how that that Liberal Party coalition fares in the future. So it looks like this is going to be a shift in power in the minor party constellation from the Libertarians towards the Greens. Again, it's hard to tell what's going to come out of this depending on who wins, but that's how it looks right now. So that is my report on those parties. What about the Republican Party? Now, if they win, of course, that means 4 more years of Trump and maybe longer, depending on what happens. If he has to give up power at the end of 4 years, he doesn't seem to like that very much. If he wins, it strengthens the mega coalition. If he loses, he's going to, I think, leave the party in the hands of the likes of J.D. Vance and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and that will be an uneasy alliance, but each of them has their own reasons. It's going to be a whole different Republican Party Right now, it's more of a Trump party, a pro-Trump party. But with Trump out of the picture at one point or another, either he loses this election or he disappears 4 years from now. I mean, he is an elderly man, and he's not sounding terrifically healthy. At some point, it's going to become a different Republican Party. J.D. Vance is part of this very Christian, Catholic, nationalist movement, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is aligned with the alternative health movement, and he has his own spiritual inclinations that he promotes with his campaign. And he's a Catholic. He's, he has his own views about Catholic his Catholic political positions. But there's some kind of alliance there in a spiritual realm, and trying to promote the idea of a radical change in how the federal government is operating. So interesting times that we live in. I think coming out of this is going to be a different Democratic Party, different Republican Party, different Libertarian Party, possibly a different kind of Green Party. Hard to say. And there's other things I'll be looking at insofar as groups of people moving between the parties. Like it seems like Black and Latino men are migrating to the Republican Party and supporting Donald Trump. Of course, women are much more behind Harris. Blue-collar workers, long-time movement from Democrats to Republicans. It's just a different configuration, and this election could probably dramatize how different it's going to look afterward. So a couple of wrap-ups here. One is that if you want to know who's going to be on your ballot, a good place to look is for the Independent Political Report. They had an article a little over a week ago, who's going to be on your 24 presidential election ballot, and a very handy map. Here you see it color-coded, a map created by Chris Powell, in which he shows you in all the states which minor party and independent candidates are going to be on the ballot. So that's somewhere to look for that. And remember, there's going to be a debate between three of the third-party candidates: Jill Stein of the Green Party, Chase Oliver of the Libertarian Party, and Randall Terry of the Constitution Party, this coming week, October 23rd, which is Wednesday, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, which would be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. As you can see there, go to the Free and Equal Foundation online if you want more information about that, or to sign up for their live stream. And then finally, insofar as people working to change the way we elect people so that we can try to break open this two-party system and make it more competitive, the open primaries people are holding a virtual open primaries rally on Monday, October 21st this week at 6 p.m. Eastern time, which is 3 p.m. Pacific time. And the president of open primaries, as well as Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate in the Democratic Party and the founder of the Forward Party, are going to be hosting that. They'll be talking about their campaigns in several states to bring open primaries and ranked choice voting in a few of them. So that is my report for this week. And again, I thank you for watching, and just 2 weeks and a couple of days until voting is over. And then we'll be following the results of the election and trying to assess what all this means for the future of this country and the party coalitions and electoral politics and all that. So stick with me, and thanks for those of you who have been following. I appreciate it. You can support this channel by liking, subscribing, sharing it with other people, or donating if you go to politicaldharma.com, or becoming a Patreon member at patreon.com/politicaldharma. Thanks again for watching, and goodbye for this week. I think I'll have a show in a few more days to talk about my thoughts about deciding who to vote for. I've already said that I'm probably going to vote for Green Party candidate Green Party candidate Jill Stein, and I'll be casting my ballot soon here in California. But I'll tell you about the whole process of my thinking about this in case you're interested in a video later this week, I think. So, bye for now.
With ease, I see the chains are breaking. We gained our focus, the moves we're making will prove to determine our self-worth as a passenger on this vehicle Earth.